Hey guys, welcome to the Real Results Show, where we feature real health coaches and health practitioners getting real health results for their clients and themselves. As always, I'm your host, Brendan Vermeyer. I'm a clinical advisor for FDN, and I'm the director of our tribe's awesome association, where we support our community with ongoing education regarding a variety of clinical and business building topics. So this week, I'm super stoked to have my friend Sharon Holand on the line with us today. She graduated the course about 2.5 years ago and has been rocking FDN professionally ever since. So, Sharon, I'm super excited to have you on the webinar tonight.
Thanks. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I truly love these shows because, we just have the best community in the world, in my opinion. And, confirmation bias, maybe guilty, it's fine.
Maybe just a little.
Yeah, a little bit. But our community is just so amazing, so many like-minded people, and I love doing this show because we get to share our stories, we get to share our passion, our art, that is our FDN service to the world. So it's also fun because I can interact and get to know all of my awesome AFDNP members even more, but also share the topics you guys are really passionate about, because one thing I think people don't really recognize with FDN is you can do anything with it as a credential and have your demographic, the type of client you really like to work with, the things that really set your heart and soul on fire, whereas mine's like mold and microbes and detox and stuff. But then tonight, what are we here to talk about with you?
We are here to talk about women, anxiety, and stress, because I know nobody like that.
I don't know any women that are anxious or stressed in my life.
No, not at all.
I'm gonna have so many hate messages after this, I have a feeling. So I'm gonna let you take the lead. So why is this an area that you feel especially passionate about?
It is interesting because I wasn't actually for a while.
There you go.
I happened to come upon FDN after I'd already gone for my master's in clinical nutrition, which I had. Yeah. I don't even think we actually ever talked about that, but I switched careers. I don't think I have. I don't know why I don't talk about that more.
Was I your mentor?
No, Brandon was.
Okay.
Brandon was my mentor. But I used to be in banking and finance, and then I had a business with my former husband, and one of my kids was diagnosed with Crohn's. And I knew nothing about Crohn's. I didn't even know, doctor said autoimmune disease. I'm like, what the heck is that? You go home and click, and a million tabs 10 hours later, and you're more confused. And that's the state of the world, right? It's
Totally.
like, ooh, let me ask Dr. Google. I'll get the answers.
Yeah, we have access to all the information in the world all the time.
All the time, exactly. So I actually went back to school really to help my son, because there was so much going on in his life. And when I graduated with my master's, there was still a component I felt that was missing from that. And there was still that gap of, there's got to be something deeper that I can get to really get to the root, because it's just something, you just know. When you know, but when you don't know what it is, you don't know what it is. So I don't know how FDN just kept popping up on my screen. And I decided to get certified because that was the missing piece of getting to the root, right, of everything that we're doing. But what happened even in the course of everything of helping my son was I realized I had so many health issues that I've been ignoring. Yeah. And I was stressed, and I have a micro pituitary adenoma, which is a benign brain tumor in the pituitary gland. Threw off my hormones. Now looking back and understanding all the different tests that we do, I was totally estrogen dominant. I had so many issues: hypoglycemic, IBS, eczema, strep throat. My body was falling apart, sending me signals. Yeah. And especially because I'm a woman, it was just easy for me over time, over these last few years, to really relate to women who are going through what I went through. Because you try everything, and then you turn 40-ish, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? There's got to be something else. There's just got to be more. And I found over the course of these last few years that it's just been naturally working with women who are either, health-minded professionals, or they're stay-at-home moms, but they have crazy schedules with their kids, with their volunteer work. And it's helping them get to that root of it. And I just have to give a shout out to Jen, because her systems helped me really shift my business model in such a great way. So thanks, Jen. I don't know if you're watching.
Maybe so. I bet she's out there. So she will.
So that's how I got started with it. And the stress and anxiety, we can't escape it. We just can't escape it. And everybody's looking for a quick fix. Right. And that was where I was like, okay, stop. Why? Yeah. And start asking the questions. And the more that you ask, the more that you talk, it's just like the little light bulbs go off. Yeah. And when you see it go off, right, in your clients and in just when you're talking to people, it's like, that's the sweet spot for me. That's my sweet spot. Yeah.
Well, it's like when, man, hearing you say that's really refreshing, because it almost kind of catches me right now, and I'm thinking, man, I almost feel like I've been doing this too much and too long, to the point that I there's nothing better than that feeling when you're able to explain to a client, somebody that has been suffering from a lot of mysterious and unrecognizable health complaints or syndromes or diagnoses or whatever. And for the first time in their life, they have somebody, that's able to slide this piece of paper across and say, let me explain this scientifically. Does that resonate? And you're able to explain all of their mysterious symptoms and then empower them on what they can do to take their health back. In the way that their eyes light up for that first time, it's the best feeling in the world, and I heard you speaking to that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what's interesting is that I have had so many clients who have come to me who've told me that their healthcare professional has told them that they're crazy and that they're just getting older, and just deal with it. That's life. It happens. And as you and I know, it's common, but it doesn't mean it's normal.
Right.
And some people choose to want to live that way, and that's okay. I used to get on my soapbox with everybody.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, okay, zip it. Just like, oh my God, I'm biting my ears. Like, bite my tongue, but zip it. If somebody wants to, they can come ask me. But it's because the student is ready, right? The teacher will appear when the student is ready.
Yeah.
And that's that. And interestingly, because I email my list, and I'm just always out there talking and doing workshops and just meeting people. And when you tell somebody that you're going to help them get to the root of their most common health complaints with testing, so they can stop guessing, that's just kind of like this, whoa, there's something else out there. You can help me bridge that gap. There's really hope.
I'd love to ask you, because previously on this show, we really focused on hearing everybody's story of what brought them to FDN and how and now, we've spruced it more where we talk about these different passion topics. But I am curious, hearing you talk right now about your experience with the FDN method and methodology. And I didn't know that you had a master's of science in clinical nutrition. And so like being a young professional that like I dropped out of college because I didn't feel that this information was taught in university. And I really, it wasn't until after I dropped out to focus on my education, ironically enough, that's really where I found FDN. But I'd love to hear you, and then we'll go back to the stress and anxiety because I have more questions about that.
Yeah.
But your Master's of Science Clinical Nutrition program, how did FDN add to that, or one filling the void of another? I don't know. I'm curious how those two programs compared to you.
They work synergistically together, to be honest. And the reason, so when I went back to grad school when my kids were in high school. So I was a lot older. And I actually remember when I had to apply, I had to take all these science classes because I graduated with a finance major, quite a while ago. And I just remember the director of the college saying, well, we need to, I had like one class left, my one prerequisite left, and I had done really well. And she said, well, we're going to have to wait till we get those results back before we put you into the program. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you realize I'm doing this because I want to, not because I have to? You saw my personal statement. So anyway, what was great about that is really learning the science and understanding macronutrients, micronutrients, doing case studies, understanding drug interactions, and looking at it scientifically through medical terms, which is great, but holistically also, because it did include learning about herbs, which one thing I can never be is an herbalist. Oh my God. It's like way too much information. I give them so much credit, but just to move on, I know, looking at it that way, it was really also just looking at blood tests. It was looking at what was out there, what existed, looking at it in a more functional range, which we do as well, not just what, disease cares looks at for the normal range, but with that, it still felt like there's something else. We didn't learn about any of the gut testing and, the Dutch test and just all these different assays that you can do, the food sensitivity, because it was really just getting to the core of the physiology. And so it was great because for me, it certainly helped with my son who has an autoimmune disease, really understand a lot of the pathways. I loved FDN because the learning about the different gut tests and stool tests and why they should be used in conjunction with, because it's never an either or ever. And I always say that to my clients. I'm like, listen, I'm not replacing your doctor, but this is what you should be aware of. And you need to know how to have a conversation with them because it's a team effort.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's how I look at this. And to me, it's like, listen, I can look at your labs and I can look at the blood work and we can really have a conversation. I mean, the stool testing and the Dutch test, and really now holistically, look at everything in such a different way that can give you so many answers. So to me, it's like a perfect fit. I probably would have done FDN anyway if I hadn't gone for my master's, but I found FDN more because of what I was looking for after my master's.
Okay. No, that's really cool. I figured it would be cool to hear that somebody that's gone through a master's of science in clinical nutrition and how that, complements or whatever with FDN. I'm sure a lot of aspiring coaches out there would benefit, which, speaking of any of you aspiring health coaches, that's like the code word of the night. If you want to type that in the chat box to learn more about the course, type in aspiring and you can get more information about the course. But, again, I was kind of in the, pre-med, pre-dietetics, I don't know, not pre-naturopathic kind of pipeline. But I was just doing gen eds. I just really didn't feel like any of the programs I could find were going to teach me that, the functional lab analysis and whatever. And that's where, when I first got into FDN, I really thought FDN and functional medicine were the same thing. But that's really not the case. I confirmation bias, guilty again. But I feel like the FDN methodology is a much more sophisticated, method of investigation and analysis. And I haven't seen anything else parallel that level of thinking where we are combining the metabolic science behind all these systems, because, in kind of more the functional medicine or even natural, the functional medicine space, I see it too reductionistic, where it's well, they're running functional tests, but then they're still just kind of relying on drugs pretty often, or they're not connecting all the dots of well, we treat the hormones, or we treat the gut, or we treat the thyroid. And it's well, but it's all combined. Where's the holistic and where's the lifestyle? Where's the environmental? So we are the only ones doing a sophisticated functional lab analysis and investigation coupled with the environmental and lifestyle holistic coaching principles to empower the client. And I'm kind of going on and on, but there isn't anything else like it. And that's where it's cool though. You can combine it with acupuncture, massage, herbalism, personal training,
Right.
clinical nutrition, like, and it only amplifies your skill set dramatically.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think you hit on such important items of the holistic, the lifestyle, the environment, because even with clients that I work with, because I take a complete holistic lifestyle approach, and when I start talking to them about, well, what cleaning products are you using and what products are you putting on your skin, and just about all those ingredients, like, listen, at the end of the day, unless you live in a cave in the woods and you're eating bamboo shoots and leaves, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Yeah. So it's about deciding for yourself. And this is, I think, part of what drives me crazy, but also makes me so passionate, is really getting people to shift that mindset of, this is your life. I'm not going to tell you don't have, but I'm going to explain to you, if you continue, this is what can happen. You make the decision. That's part of where all that coaching comes in. So like, even with anxiety and stress, we know that it's so many factors. It's your relationships, it's work, it's kids, it's the toxins, right, in the air, in the food, in the products. And it's about like, okay, where do I start? And most people, that's what stresses them out, is not knowing where to start. And they're so disconnected from themselves.
Yeah.
Because we're so busy looking externally. We're busy on social media. We're busy on Facebook. Yes. We're buying and eating advertisements every single day. I mean, I did a mini TED style talk that was 5.5 minutes about how we're living in this matrix.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You have to watch it. You have to go to my website and watch it. It's honestly, and I'm not one usually to like kind of like brag, but it is just so brilliant because
yes,
because we're so conditioned, and we've been conditioned throughout our lives and the generations. Yeah. We don't just wake up and this is how we are. Right. We've been conditioned that way. And the first thing we need to do is look at those ads on TV and say, okay, why is that ad telling me that I can be, happy and the music is great and I'm smiling and I feel good and I'm dancing? Oh, but I just need to take this medicine to activate something in my body to reduce my insulin so that my body can work properly. What?
Yeah.
Right?
You are speaking music to my ears right now.
But that is the thing, and really I want to get back to the stress and anxiety, is that is the first place that we have to realize, is that we have to connect to ourselves, and we have to realize we do have the answers. We have to trust ourselves. And I actually created, and I'm trademarking this method called the gut method. Yes, pun intended. Because the G part, you have to get connected to yourself, right? So when you're stressed and anxious, when is it happening? It might, sometimes it's not even food related, it's relationship related, or it's, work related, right? Or the symptoms. It's like, what are all these symptoms that we're feeling? Everything that we've been taught, looking at all of that, understanding what it means to you. Not going online and starting to Google everything and thinking that, oh, I'm going to biohack my body by buying this supplement. Let me drink all I want. I'm going to take activated charcoal and I'm good to go.
Yeah. I am very annoyed by biohacking.
Listen, there's a time and a place for everything. But if you can get connected and understand, and then just take one step, take action, right? So for people who aren't sure if they want to work with one of us, just have a conversation. Find out, well, what's your biggest health complaint? And the stress and anxiety, if people don't really look at what's happening in the gut and look at what's happening in the brain together, because it's connected to the vagus nerve and how all these neurotransmitters are talking, if we really don't look at that whole picture and we just go in and say, oh, well, my estrogen's this, or my progesterone's this, I'm going through menopause, yeah, I'm a little hypothyroid, all right, take a little medicine here, take a little medicine there. You're not looking at the whole thing. You're not looking at your cortisol. You're not looking at the oats, right? The organic acids that even come up with the Dutch.
Now got me really excited.
Do you need a moment?
I'm such a nerd, man, but you know, I own
I'm
it and I
becoming
run
a
with it.
nerd.
Oh man, you are everything you're saying right now. You are throwing down some super like spiritual, vibey, and scientific stuff, which is totally my frequency. So what you said about the, you know, really I was just saying that like everybody's looking outward, we need to look inward. I was kind of thinking in my head like a little joke of, you know, the ultimate biohack, introspection. Like, do you even introspect, bro? Hashtag. It's just
Yes.
ridiculous. And I love the way you're speaking to you know, the phenomena of stress. And I think it's such a core key concept that people look at so simplistically. And it's like we really need to understand, like, you know, your health is your body's ability to maintain homeostasis against all these different types of stressor, whether it's the psychological emotional category of stress, the musculoskeletal structural category, or biochemical physiological. And so I've always said, like, you know, your metabolic chaos is the sum of, you know, the stressors of those three categories. And I think you're mapping it out so well, but also, you know, reframing their perspective to help them realize what the real problem is, you know.
Yeah. And that at the end of the day, like those are my ideal clients who work with me, is that they're ready for that. And you have to be ready for that, because if not, you can pick one component, and that's fine, because you start where you're at. But for instance, like I'm working with someone who's a high-powered executive and stressed beyond belief, anxious beyond belief, and constipated beyond belief.
Oh no. Oh
Going
no.
once or twice a week. You know, it's like, okay.
Oh God, that sounds awful.
Horrible. So, you know, it takes a while to get the test results back. So you want to start with them. So you know, first thing you start was, tell me about your day. Tell me about your routine. Tell me about your food. Let's, you know, to go through the whole journal of what you're eating and what do you think is healthy, right? Because we need to understand what their definition of health is, because it doesn't matter what ours is. They might have a completely different definition of what that means, or what even like 80-20 rule, like, you know, eat in moderation. What does that mean? So really understanding that is part of that getting to the root, because when you can do that and make them really, like, I like to mirror, I like to like throw back at them and have them come up with the solution.
Totally.
I'm just that conduit of helping them see what they knew but didn't trust.
Yeah.
Because their gut's all messed up.
Right. You know, I really dig that. For one thing, the conduit, and you know, it's like they're their spirit animal. You're there to help them unlock their next evolution as a bipedal hominid on this planet. But you're so right, though, and something I like to kind of speak to that I hear you conveying is, you know, really combining the science with the psychology. And that's where I always tell people, like, your health is a yin yang of physiology and psychology. They are truly inseparable. I mean, the easiest example we all know of, you know, oh, high psycho-emotional stress evokes cortisol, lowers secretory IgA in the gut and suppresses immunity and gastric acids. And it's like, these are just like tagline science things that are extremely valid, that absolutely validate, you know, that connection of physiology playing on the psychology and vice versa. I love how you're attacking both with your clients of like, well, yeah, you feel this way because for one thing, your gut's messed up, and let's reframe your perspective here so you can see things a little bit more clearly. Oh, now you feel amazing and you realize, like, you know, reality is vibrant and limitless and it always has been, but you couldn't see it. What? Wow.
Yeah.
Are you like my spirit animal for life or what?
Yeah. It's true. And what's interesting is that when people say, I don't have time, we all have the same, what is it, 167 hours in a week or 168 hours a week, right? We all have the same amount of time. So it's, what are you doing with the time altogether? And I always have people, I literally, and this is, I don't know if you do this, but I have people write the number down and I say, okay, subtract out how many hours you sleep, how many hours you work, how many hours commute to work, the non-negotiables of whatever that means, exercise, cleaning the house, I don't care. How many hours, what that all totals. Maybe you have like, oh, we've got date night, put it in. Kids, whatever, put it in. Those things. how many hours do you have left? And if I tell you, I maybe have had one person that's had less than 10 hours that they've had available. Most people have 40 hours out of that week. That's free time. And they're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing with my time. Wow. Well, imagine now if we can start reframing all of that. And so this particular client, she decided to take her email off of her phone. And she starts her morning with a few things that I had suggested. And she started eating breakfast, which she wasn't eating. So her blood sugar dropped, and that leads, to a whole slew of things. And she was a self-diagnosed hypoglycemic. She started to eat gluten-free oats with some flax and chia and some, blueberries and some nuts and solid breakfast, even added some psyllium husk and a little bit of fat. Nice balanced breakfast, going so regularly. Not only that, drinking more water, but just removing her email from her phone. And realizing how much time she spent on social media, stressing out over what people were saying in the Facebook groups, questioning then, is this right? Like in a few weeks already, her whole life had done like a 180-degree turn. And so it can be that simple. We're just complicating it.
Yeah. We're good at complicating and overcomplicating everything.
Hey, listen, I'm guilty. I'm going to admit that's why,
we all are, no hypocrisy here. We all are, for sure. I've got to say, I'm really impressed with, I don't know, it's like kind of your system, your style, what I'm hearing of how you put it all together. And I think you really are like the perfect example that exemplifies, what an FDN practitioner is all about. It's navigating the metabolic science, but also the psychology. Like it truly is the ultimate healing journey guide.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's kind of like this is terrible. So I'm going to apologize in advance, but it's really a dummy's guide, right? Because it really is. You know how they had the dummy series, Dummy's Guide to all the different things. And again, I apologize for using that word, but the thing is, it really is simple. And if we would just chunk it down and really take a look at where our stress is coming from and our anxiety, and listen, it is chemical too, right? So you do have to address that. You need to see, do I have enough, melatonin? Do I have, what's going on with my dopamine, and then if you're on medications, what's that doing? So you have to look at all of that, but there's so many things like, even just something simple, when you're feeling anxious, let's say you're sitting in an office or at home and you're working on the computer and you're starting to feel anxious over a deadline, a project, whatever it is, you're sitting. So everything, the energy in you is stuck, right? And energy needs to flow. And this is actually my meditation. My cousin, who's a meditation teacher, shared this with me. I was like, this is so simple for me to share with my clients. Get up. If you're in an office, go to the bathroom and do this, because otherwise you'll look like a fool. But just start jumping around, moving your arms and body in a different way that you've never done before. Make noises, open your mouth wide, twist, and sing a song, whatever it is, do something.
Can you demonstrate? Oh man.
But just doing that just starts to move the energy. Right. So even something so simple, because it's energy, it's all energy. And when you start doing that, you're able to start to release stuff. And then you can be like, okay, let me look at it differently.
Yeah. Man, I really dig that. I wish that, I'm really sad you're not going to the conference, because one day we could chat and hang out, but we could all, dance and make sounds and move and just let it out and be the freaks out.
We're such freaks.
I know. I don't know. We're an interesting breed, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Your work is really impressive. I'm really proud of you. And
thank you.
I think this is, it's so cool. So I highly encourage anybody listening, if this resonates with you. So where can they get in touch with you and find and also I need to watch that TED Talk thing you were talking about. I'm interested.
It's on my website. So my website is Sharon Holand with one L. So the country, but not spelled like the country. And I have an opt-in guide. Actually, I have a free giveaway of, it's a symptoms checklist, but basically it's just the first start of how do you start getting connected, and then what to do with that, because everybody needs to start somewhere. So my thing is like, okay, get connected to you, look at all these symptoms and just see if you're exhibiting them, then you start journaling, right? So it gives all the instructions on how to do that. And from my website, they can follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all the platforms, and listen to my other podcasts and my Matrix talk. So
awesome. Okay. I really liked what I heard in there about the how to get connected guide. I'm going to check that out. I might have to borrow that. That sounds really cool.
I'm more than happy to give that to you. I'm actually writing a book.
Are you? Oh my! All right, hang on, hold on. All right, I'm a little bit mind blown now because I was just thinking earlier today. I love talking about that kind of stuff with the introspection and the process of self-discovery by unlearning everything you're speaking to. I have not yet figured out, other than my podcast and just blabbering about it, I haven't really figured out, like, how do I teach my clientele how to get, I can blabber about it, but how do I teach them how to do it? I'm gonna direct them towards your thing. And then you're writing a book. I have to hear a little bit more about that before I let you go for the night.
Well, as you know, right, all of us who've gone through this, it's like we start to see the same things, so Jen created the whole business platform systems to go for the behind the scenes. There are the same questions that we ask. And then when you work with clients over and over, you start to hear certain things. And it's like, I start creating these guides for them, these little things, so that when my clients who do my VIP program, they get all these documents from me because I've started put together. I'm like, I should write a book. Yeah. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I didn't know what it was going to be about. And it actually just occurred to me this past early winter. I just kind of started to think, like, how can I get this out to masses of people and speak about it? And so my goal is, I'm hoping for November, but if it's not out before Thanksgiving, I might wait till January because of the holiday season. So yeah. I'm already, the
book is coming out this year.
Yeah, I've been writing it. I'm actually in a second editing with it already. But it's
I've got to get my copy.
Well, maybe next summer I will speak at the conference. There you go, putting it out there.
Ooh, we're onto something now. Well, shoot. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I think that's fantastic. I'm proud, impressed by your work. Everybody can reach out to you through your website and social media and all that. I'm bummed that you're not making it to the conference.
I know. Me too. But we'll set up, we'll chat, we'll connect. We'll
hang out for sure. But for those of you listening and watching, remember you can type aspiring there in the chat box to learn more about all this awesome FDN stuff that we're talking about. We do have course counselors that you can talk to, so determining if it's the right fit for you. But I'd love to see you at the conference. I'm always happy to talk about this stuff, but thanks for tuning in. And Sharon, thanks again. I'm sure we'll talk soon, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great night.
Hey, you too. See you guys.